$250 a foot. Some of it was finance, so our returns were unbelievable. And although I did well, there were guys with much bigger visions than me. I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Barry Sternlicht. Started a company called Starwood Capital, turned into Starwood Hotels. Today he's a billionaire. He started out with nothing. He found some rich folks to back him. He was buying in this time of chaos. You know, Charles Darwin said that those who survive are not necessarily the strongest, not necessarily the most intelligent, but rather the most adaptable. And that's what I think you all ought to be thinking about when you evaluate U Inc. What do you need to do? What changes? Do you reinvent yourself? You know, the good thing about a downtime is it gives you an opportunity to reflect, to step back, to take a breath, to think a little bit. Is U Inc. headed in the right direction? Is your business model right? Are there some opportunities you're missing? So, Charles Darwin, adaptable. I brought this quote that I read in 1982. A guy I'm sure you all heard of, Tom Peters, wrote a book called In Search of Excellence, where he studied all these companies and how some of them became so super successful. Here's this quote from In Search of Excellence. Quote, "The winners of tomorrow will deal proactively with chaos. We'll look at chaos per se as the source of market advantage, not as a problem to be gotten around." And that is how I feel, and it has been my experience that in times of these tectonic shifts in the Earth's, strata, there are openings, there are opportunities. Okay, so U Inc., hopefully you accept my proposition that you ought to do everything you can to add value to U Inc. What should U Inc. be doing? Now, I could give you my thoughts on the kind of opportunities there are in the real estate world. Let me just gloss over those because I really want to spend a little more time on what U Inc. ought to be thinking in your head. But opportunities, well, I've been reading, talking to a lot of people. A buddy of mine is one of the top investment sales guys with CB Richard Ellis. He's been #1, I think, 4 of the last 5 years. He and I had a brainstorming session earlier in the week. He's trying to invent himself. He's thinking, if you're in investment sales right now, you could have a tough couple of years with the climate, the credit and capital climate. So he's trying to invent himself. He's going to companies and he's offering his services in a way that he can help them restructure, recapitalize. I read a Goldman Sachs report the other day that if all the debt that's coming due is renewed but with more stringent loan-to-value requirements, there's going to be a need of about $200 billion in equity from real estate owners ponying up in order to extend their debt. So he's going to go to these companies and explain to them how they can restructure debt. Working as a receiver. Back in the early 90s, a lot of people who weren't doing a lot of brokerage business. I think if you're a retail broker, by the way, you got a tough couple years ahead of you. Maybe you can work as a receiver for banks that are taking back property or taking control of property. If you're a tenant leasing person, maybe it's not the time to be moving tenants around, but maybe it's the time to be going to landlords, renegotiating leases, trade rent for term, that kind of thing. But what I really want to spend my remaining here 10 minutes or so is what U Inc. ought to be thinking about as you confront this time of chaos and hopefully time of opportunity. And I think there are 3 messages that I think what I've learned over